Every time I try to film, there's birds chirping, kids screaming, dogs barking. Anyways, not a big deal. So today's episode, I'm switching out this bumper and I'm installing the Ironman4x4 Classic Bull Bar Bumper. So stay tuned. So, if you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping to get more and more content put out regarding 100 series Land Cruisers, as well as camping gear and just going out camping, some camping fun. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect all the lighting. I'm going to remove the front bumper, and then I'll show you what I bought. Taking out the front plate. Now, first things first is definitely pop that hood. You're gonna have to probably access a lot of the bolts and stuff from the inside, and probably not a bad idea to disconnect your ground off your battery while you're disconnecting all the lights. So, I actually got a pretty good smoking deal. I actually got a pretty good deal from Ironman4x4. It was $999 plus free shipping for this bumper. And you know what? That's pretty amazing because most of these bumpers are going for about $12.99, almost $1,300 plus shipping. Sometimes they give out free lights. An ARB bumper, which is very similar to this, goes for about the same price plus shipping. Oh man, you know, I scored. So with that being said, yeah, I'm not sponsored. So look at this. This is how it came. It came on this great big giant pallet. They say that the shipping weight was about 200 pounds. They strap it down. Everything is cardboard, double wrapped or quadruple wrapped. The boxes are even secured with inside the load. You know, they say, hey, check it out. Make sure it's not scratched or anything. Well, this thing is completely covered. So, yeah, nobody drove their pallet forks right through and put a big old dent in it for me. So I'm really happy with that. So you guys might also notice that, hey, I'm wearing my Eat Sleep Overland shirt and my Cruiser Gear hat. Gotta love these guys. They provide quality items. So parts list. Inside the bag, or inside one of the boxes, and there's a couple boxes that I included over there. Instructions. The instructions say that it should take about 2 hours to complete this. We got some hardware. Oh, look at that. A keychain bottle opener. It says Ironman4x4. We got some brackets. A big bag of hardware. There's some big bolts with washers. And then, of course, the Ironman 4x4 decal. Maybe I just put that right there. Would that just give me some street credit right there? So let's take this bad boy apart. Also, just a disclaimer here. I'm not a mechanic. I'm a hobbyist. I love the 100 series Land Cruiser. And I love to off-road. I love overlanding. And I love spending time with my family. So that's why this thing always gets the upgrades. It always gets preventative maintenance. It's fun to drive. And one of the main reasons why I bought the Ironman4x4 bumper is for safety. So there's a lot of awesome looking bumpers that are out there. And the Ironman4x4 bumper provides that level of safety. Because in Australia they have a bunch of safety requirements, you know, that allow your airbags to work. This Ironman plus, I believe it's TJM and ARB, all go through those strict guidelines and testing. Let's take this thing off. So when you're disconnecting the wires, you have your turn indicator light. Just all you do is twist it, pull it right out, and then this plug right here is a little retention right there. You just push on that and pull it out. You don't have to remove this light because that's all just one solid unit, and it'll actually be removed with the entire bumper. So just let it drape until you get the new bumper, and then we'll splice those wires in. Alright, so now you have these 10 millimeters on the very bottom, which holds on the bumper cover, the plastic cover, and there are 6 of them, 10 millimeter. Now also looking under here, as I'm taking these 10 millimeters out, is that you'll need to take out any type of recovery points that you have, because that bumper is going to sit up here, and then you have a support bracket, so it's going to utilize these 2 holes. So there is a retainer clip, a plastic clip that goes in there. One of those little let's see, clip looks just like this. That's in there. You pull that out. Then on the corner right here in this area, it's tucked up there by the wheel, there's another 10 millimeter hidden behind here. Just make sure you pull that side, pull whatever retainer clips are here and here. There's not going to be any retainer clips in this area underneath the headlight housing, and there's one last 10 millimeter in this corner. Now there you have it. The cover is off. Now we just have to take off the actual structural portion of the bumper. So when you're taking off the structural portion of the front bumper, utilized an extension, 1/2 inch drive, along with a 14 millimeter socket. There's going to be 2 on this side, 2 on the other. Alright, I'm like not even paying attention to ratcheting this off because I'm looking at all the parts that I could probably need to touch up with paint. And, they say that it's a good idea to paint this little portion, but this actually looks like it's pretty good. I could probably just clean it up. So, as per the instructions, they say, hey, while you have everything off, just paint it. I'm good. Paint these satin black, according to the instructions. Step 4 are these crush tubes. So you can place these crush tubes, and there's a hole on the top and the bottom right here. And to secure it in place, you're going to take a screwdriver, line it up, and drop the screwdriver in so that it goes all the way through. Now you know that that's going to be in place. On to side 2, and this is where, right after this step, we actually dive into the bumper and we start mounting stuff. So these screwdrivers are only meant to be as a guide so you can stand it straight up. What's going to end up happening right now is that we're going to take the chassis tube and we're going to set it onto these frame horns here. And then there's a big long bolt that is going to be going straight through that to hold it in place. And it seriously has taken me probably a good 5 minutes just to take this, take all the cardboard and the foam off of this bumper. I'm not complaining, I'm actually very happy because there's nothing more painful than accepting a package, finding out it's completely destroyed or bent or scratched, and then trying to make that decision whether or not you need to send it all back. So, oh, you know what I forgot to do? Take up the tow hooks or recovery points. And I even said to take out those recovery points. 22 millimeter. Oh. what I've also done too is I've taken off the skid plate, and I'll do a video on that skid plate. I know some people have asked about the skid plate that I'm using, and you know, they want to know the durability of it and how much it costs and who makes it. So I will definitely put that in another video. And if anybody is wondering about these recovery points, these right here, super heavy duty from Trail Tailor. And I've only had to use it once. And that was to get pulled out in the sand. And yes, I did air down my tires. So these bottom brackets that go in between the chassis and then what do they call it? So it's the U channel that slides between the chassis and the chassis bracket. The flat portion has to be up, so it goes in between the chassis and the chassis bracket. The holes all need to line up. So it goes in a very specific order. So take a screwdriver, because you're going to lean that crush tube just to the front, but you're going to try to line up the hole in the bottom. So all you do is take your screwdriver, put it in there, it all lines up, get your big bolt, drop it from the top, through the crush tube, and all the way down through the bottom. Just like that. Perfect. On to the next step. So after you put this on, you put the long bolt in, you'll have provided bolts for the recovery points. The longer of the recovery bolts are going to go on the right side of the chassis. And then the shorter of the ones, which are still going to be longer than the factory bolts or the bolts provided by Trail Tailor, they will go on the left side. So the reason why the short ones are on the right side, those two short bolts, they're M14 by 60 on the driver's side, and M14 100s on the passenger side. So they're for the stock recovery points. They're not made for Trail Tailor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Trail Tailor recovery point on the passenger side, and then I'll go find two bolts, two M14 by 100s for the driver's side, so I can mount that at a later date. So not a big deal. I'm just going to mount everything up. I'll install these two short ones, these 60s on the driver's side, bolt it all up. Let's just get this install done until I get those new bolts. Once you get the bumper placed on top, make sure you grab a buddy. A jack always helps out. There are 3 mounting bolts that go on each side, and then there's some pinning bolts that we'll have to drill out after. But first of all, I want to get this thing level, make sure that all the measurements from right to left are, everything's just square. So let's get this tightened up. And now that I have this on here, I kind of wish that I would have bought the winch. So, Ironman4x4, I'll probably be giving you a call tomorrow for a winch. Don't tell my wife.
Your wife is right here.
Was that allowed? I'm liking it so far. It looks cool. All right, to top off your installation of the Ironman 4x4 front or classic front bumper, there is a skid plate. I'll show you this. Let's see here. All right, and I don't even know if it's necessarily called a skid plate, but it covers this area right here, which would expose your winch. And so all the nuts are threaded on the bolt or on the bumper, and as well as the chassis mount. So what I want to do is I'm just going to start this first one over here. It takes a 13 millimeter. You have a flat washer and a lock washer. And there are 5 bolts. This is easily a 2-man job, right? This is easily a 2-man job, just especially to get the thing aligned. So I've already put it all together. I've drove it around and I started looking at it, and have everything pretty much bolted down. So this is the final piece right here. And I probably should have bought the winch, because I'm gonna have to take this all apart and readjust it. However, when you put the locking pins in there, then you really don't have to readjust, because that's where the locking pins go, and that's what's going to hold that bumper in pretty much the position where you want it. So you can see the 3 bolts. I only drilled in 1 pin, right there. I drilled that one in. I still have another one down below, but I want to make sure that I get the adjustment just right. So I'm going to wait till I get my winch. I'll put it in, I'll line it all up, make sure that it's exactly where I want it, have the winch installed, and then I'll drill the other holes. But I believe it takes and I'll list it right down below what drill bit size it takes. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but what I did here for the lighting is the turn signal can either be a running light or a turn signal. Of course, there's no turn signals up above on the light housing, so I utilize the bumper's turn signals, because this is an LX470, where the Toyota brand Land Cruiser has them in the lighting assembly. So I hooked it up there. There's a lighting schematic. However, it'll be hyper flash, because these are LED lights. So if you get a JDM LED flasher with a resistor in it, I believe it's a resistor, that'll alleviate that problem and you won't have hyper flash. So that's going to be next on my list of things to do. And then I hooked up the factory fog lighting or wiring to the lights that provided in this bumper. So, as you can see, the bumper's on. I have not put on the pinning bolts. Right? So, you definitely need 2 people. One to help you align it, and so that way you can get underneath there and put the bolts in. Because what there are is, from the chassis mount, there's 3 bolts that go on this side and 3 on this side, and then you have 2 pinning bolts that you need to drill in. I haven't done it yet because I'm not completely sold on the alignment that I have right now. So this is what I mean by hyper flash. And there's the factory fogs. They're just halogens compared to the LED lights that I have up above. So that'll get swapped out to LEDs. So when I have the hazards on, you can see full LED, So I'm really happy with this bumper. It's totally changed the look of this vehicle.